Welcome to the Reseller Show with your hosts, Andy Lawrence and Kevin Blackburn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Reseller Show. My name's Andy Lawrence.
And my name's Kev Blackburn.
And welcome to session number 8, I think it is now. Right, so this was a bit of an impromptu one today. Actually, we'd have got our wires crossed this evening as to what's happening with the Reseller Show, because we did one live at Kev's warehouse actually over at the weekend, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And so we've got a bonus one and a live one for you this week. So plenty in store. So why don't you, on that note, Kev, why don't you let us know what we've got in store this evening?
Thank you guys for joining this evening. We've got Simon and Jonathan and that. And this Saturday, 2 days ago, we had a live mastermind at the warehouse, which was fantastic. It was great to bring people together in one room. And me and Andy thought, well, why not do a reseller show Top Gear style and a live audience? So really looking forward to publishing that and sharing that with you. That's just a special episode for you guys. It was great interaction between the guys that turned up. We'll send some photos and stuff out of the day. It was really enjoyable. But what it really did for myself, and I know it did for Andy as well, it really solidified the idea of doing more reseller shows in live audience, being wherever we can potentially do one in the future. So do look out for some 2019 dates, because I'm sure there'll be definitely at least one, maybe more.
Yeah, for sure. That's it was a good dry run to see what we could do on the day, and I must admit it was I think it was an unrivaled success, if I may say so, Kev. You did a great job organizing everything, and I think a lot of people got an awful lot of benefit out of it. So,
Yeah, so I just wanted to go off that. Just before we came on air, Colin was an attendee at the Mastermind on Saturday, and he posted just before we went live this evening, and I think it was a really good comment to make about the difference between you are trying to build your business, your online e-commerce business from your house, whether it's your living room, your bedroom, wherever you may be. It sometimes can feel a bit lonely. So he basically just commented just before we came live saying, it sounds a bit silly, but from the very second I walked through the door, there was something special that clicked in my mind. After months and months of not having anybody to talk to face-to-face about FBA, I just remember how surreal the feeling was to walk in a room and suddenly hear 3 or 4 different actual conversations going on about return on investment, software, VAs, Q4. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is it. This is the next part of the journey. This is exactly where I need to be. And I just think that's a really great comment to make, because I assume that you've probably had this for many years now, Andy, working on your online business for over a decade now. What have you felt? I know the answer to this question. Being in person is just so much better than online, working by yourself and just talking through messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colin's a lovely bloke, and it was a pleasure to meet him on the day. And that was a lovely message he put on there. Actually, that's a lot of nice sentiment in there, and for sure, it does make a massive difference. It's a totally different quality of conversation when you can get together. You know, words are just ultimately inert without expression, eye contact, and general feeling you get from being face to face. And certainly for one, having worked, more or less alone day to day on my business, I have to make a point of getting out of the house and meeting up with friends and doing things socially, just so I get that social interaction, because a lot of people who do work a 9 to 5 probably take that side of it as for granted, the social interactions and things. And it is important. It's really important for us as human beings to interact and socialize, not just to help us with our businesses, but just to meet other like-minded people. And I said this when we're having drinks afterwards. Sometimes we can have people around us as a almost as a side product of our surroundings, whether because of work or because of various different situations, we end up with a certain amount of people around us. And obviously we appreciate them depending on who they are and whatnot, but sometimes we end up with a lot of associates. But to be able to choose to spend time with people and say, I want to be around these people, and to have things in common and to get to know people like that in a very meaningful and specific, purposeful way, rather than being around people just because that's how things have ended up with work and other commitments, then it's a totally different sort of interaction. And it really came across on Saturday when you've got a lot in common. And I think when people want to do this type of business, and the type of people that make the point of coming down from Scotland or across from Wales or up from London, if you are that type of person, you're almost certainly going to be the type of person that I get a lot of benefit from speaking to and chatting to and interacting with. So that's very much the case, and I got a lot from it just by speaking to great people on the day, for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more. I think it makes such a difference. This reseller community is a very special community, I think, because we're all on this journey together, and I know it's a weird thing as people who we want to quit our jobs so we can work from home, and it sounds so real. It sounds great, but then when you get to working at home, you just want to get out and meet new people again. So it is strange, but like you said there, you can have a much deeper conversation, a real conversation, rather than just although messaging on Facebook and Instagram and all these things are great, but you don't get the detail. You don't actually get to see somebody in real life, like look into their eyes and actually feel the expression and the emotion. And we met some incredible people, and it definitely, we are 100% certain that we will be doing multiple Reseller Show lives in person in 2019 for sure.
Absolutely, definitely going to be on the calendar, and we'll make sure we plan them ahead of time, because it's well worth doing for everyone concerned, I think. And a bonus to meet up with Matt from the Secret Wealth Project as well, who popped in, and we both had great chats with him, didn't we? And he's a great guy, isn't he? We had a great time with him.
Absolutely, Matt is a fantastic guy. It was a bit of a secret surprise, Matt coming. But yeah, it was fantastic. We met so many people just to go for dinners and evening drink and things afterwards. It was really, really good. But yeah, shall we start with the show?
Yeah, I think we should get started.
Yeah. Otherwise, we could talk about that all night, I think.
We certainly could do.
So to begin with, what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to give you guys an update from a couple of weeks. There was a question from Lee, if you remember, and Lee was talking about, I'm just trying to find out what the session number it was, but Lee mentioned about the issue with Amazon not dispersing all your funds. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I remember the question, yeah.
It was in session 5. Lee was basically saying that as new sellers, what Amazon do is they hold your money as reserve. So he was having difficulty with cash flow, and just like anybody that wants to get started, your money is very, very important. So with Amazon holding reserves, 50% of the cash that you've got in your Seller Central account, it causes difficulty, especially with trying to scale, trying to get going, and cash flow issues. So after myself and Andy gave him some great advice on what the options, what the things he can do, he's actually been updating me on the actions that he's taken. So basically what he's done is he's been in communication with Amazon Seller Central, and he's explained to them that he's now been a seller for over 12 months, or more than 12 months now. He expressed that his account metrics are all healthy. He's got no issues with any defect orders. He's got no issues with customer complaints or customer feedback or customer message response time. He's got a very healthy standing account, and basically what happened is Seller Central agreed that he should not have a reserve cap on his account anymore. But then he was passed on to a different department because unfortunately seller support can't authorize anything to do with payments. They can't change anything to do with payments. So he's now in communication with the seller performance team and the payments team to try getting this reserve cap or restriction, whatever you want to call it, lifted, which is, I think that's fantastic progress. And I think that is, in many ways, for anybody that's maybe in this position, could be game changing for them going forward if they can get this done.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a great idea. Get in touch, because if you don't ask, you don't get, right? It's only just a question of opening a support ticket and opening a dialogue and having that conversation. Why not? Absolutely, get out there and be proactive, because yeah, if they take a look and agree, then absolutely get rid of that and you can get cracking. So yeah, great work from there, from Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, if you listening to this or watching this back later on, and maybe you find yourself in this position where cash flows may be an issue because Amazon are keeping your half of your money, don't hesitate. Start taking action on trying to get you de-restricted, and I'll keep you updated as we go on to the future for sure.
Absolutely. Simon said he's amazed that they still withhold money after 12 months. I mean, yeah, I'm not aware as to, I don't know, they don't publish this sort of information. So I don't know what the cutoff is, whether there's a certain period of time or they monitor each individual account. It's probably an algorithm. Most things are. So it is amazing that after 12 months, he's still restricted. But yeah, maybe we might hear back in some of the information he gets back from them. Maybe it might shed a little more light onto it. But yeah, it's sounds like he's on the right course of action anyway, Kev.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. So there was I've just been in the Facebook group, and just for information, if you want to join our Facebook group, please do. It's an open Facebook group, the Reseller Show. You can ask any questions there. And there was actually a question that was submitted about 40 minutes ago or so for the show. And it was from somebody called Nini. I do apologize if I get your name wrong. But basically, Nini asked, how do you go about banning a customer from buying DVD from us on Amazon? In the last 6 months, this customer has bought from us 4 times and then returned them. I can tell that they are reseller as addressed as an industrial estate. We never get to see the returns as Amazon says damaged or return or lost. So we get a fraction of the cost. Yeah,
that's real. That's a real pain. Unfortunately, you do get the odd person like this. There's a regular seller that we heard about on the book flipper community, the UK book flipper community, that regularly buys high value books, buys them and returns a worse copy of the same book, or a destroyed copy or something like that, and is regularly doing it. And they're a professional bookseller on Amazon, and he's been reported several times for this, and it's very difficult to get any leverage with Amazon, unfortunately, but they say they're looking into it. I don't know what they're doing really, but yes, it is a concern. There are some unscrupulous people out there that will do underhanded things like that, which is a shame, but such is life, I guess. You get nasty people in all walks of life, and I guess that includes Amazon sellers as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that you can highlight specific people to block. Is that right, Kev?
I'll be honest, I've got limited experience with this. I don't believe that I have ever come across. I've seen some recurring customers before, but they've never returned anything. And I've always thought, oh, wow, I wonder how, because some customers may have your store link, I guess, and they could just purchase directly from you.
Yeah.
So I've seen some returning customers, but I've never I've never thought to myself, hang on a minute, this customer is like returning stuff and he's causing me now a bigger problem. So I wouldn't know, but I'd be interested for anybody that's here this evening or anybody watching this back to get into the community and share your experience on this, because it's no good. You know, we're all on the same side. If you're a reseller, a part of this community, and you're taking advantage of another reseller, then I mean, you shouldn't be in this community. You know, it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I know you certainly can do that on eBay. I must admit, I've never physically attempted to do it myself, so I don't know off the top of my head how would you go about doing that. But I'd be surprised if there isn't somewhere a function where you might be able to highlight a specific seller to stop from buying from you. But yeah, that may be an answer for next week's show. Maybe we'll have to go and research that and come back on that one. But it is a problem. Luckily, it's in the minority. I've not had it myself. I've been able to dodge those sort of people. But yeah, there certainly, if there isn't, there certainly should be a function. It has been on a function on eBay for a long time. So yeah, we'll investigate that and let you know next week. I think is probably the answer for that one. Find out a bit more about it.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that I know Amazon. I know they're all about the customer. I totally get that. But at the same time, I'm a bit surprised that they don't have some type of metrics on a customer, like how many returns have you had? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I'm
exactly.
convinced that they look at this information. They must do. You know, knowing Amazon and the beast that they are and how automated that they are, you know, they definitely they must gather this information for sure.
Yeah. No, it does. It does frustrate me sometimes with Amazon. They've got all the data there, all the facts are in place for them, so they could easily see that. The issue, I think, is the support system is obviously a very large bunch of workers that are working to set parameters. They've got a difficult job. They've probably got a massive questions coming in on a daily basis. They've got targets to meet. And when you've got something that is non-standard, it's probably difficult to get that right question to the right person sometimes. And I think they could probably get bounced around and maybe given a generic response where really that could have done with going up a level into some maybe more experienced management areas and get the right person to manually go and check somebody. But obviously the logistics of doing that is very difficult when you've got a company as big as Amazon. So, you know, I understand it's not an easy thing to do, but there should certainly be an escalation method where something like that could actually get manually checked and someone could go, yes, I can see this guy is regularly returning books. I've got evidence from several different people saying this person is returning not the same item. In fact, I've got, you know, maybe 10 or 20 different claims by different people on different times that he's doing this. There's enough evidence here. We're going to take his account down. You know, this should be something they could do manually, but you know, I understand that that's not an easy thing. It's an easy thing to say and not an easy thing to do when you've got a behemoth of a company like Amazon to try and admin. So
yeah.
Difficult.
I just talking about this, I think talking about Amazon and the size that they are, in the groups this week, this was a hot topic of this week. I actually got this email. I was just searching through my email inbox just right now on the 21st of November. So when was that? That was about 5 days ago. In the morning, and I think a lot of us got this email. Amazon, they sent us this email about important information regarding your Amazon.co.uk account. And it was basically saying that we are contacting you to let you know that our website inadvertently disclosed your name and email address due to a technical error. This issue has been fixed. This is not a result of anything you have done, and there is no need for you to change your password or take further action. Sincerely, Customer Service Department. Did you get that email, Andy?
I did get that email, Kev, yes. And
what was your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'll have to censor those thoughts, Kev, as we're live on here. But yeah, I think it's an example, unfortunately, how Amazon can sometimes underestimate the customer, and I don't know, underestimate the sellers anyway, because that should have been a better worded message. It almost sounds like they've given it to some customer service rep who maybe doesn't have the skills to put together a decent email, because it was literally a couple of lines. Sorry, we've given away all your data. Nothing to worry about though. Have a good day. And you just think, what? Firstly, it's a big deal. And secondly, they're sending out a 3-line sort of email makes it a very sort of offhand email, and doesn't give it the time and the information that really deserves. And there's less, probably most sellers in the UK thinking, what? What exactly has happened? How has it happened? And what you're going to do to make sure it hasn't happened in the future? I mean, it does unfortunately leave me shaking my head when you get messages like this. It's happened before. What was that, Kev? Was it about 6 months, 12 months ago when they sent out an email saying we're going to gate the toys and games category? Just like a 3-line email saying we're going to gate toys and games category as of yesterday or something like this. And then, like, if you happen to have stock, you've got to get it returned. Thanks very much. It was yours sincerely, Amazon. And everyone was like, what? Totally lost the plot. And then what happened the next 24 hours later, they sent another message saying, dear Amazon seller, please disregard the email we sent yesterday. It's not going to happen. Thanks very much, Amazon. And you think, my word, who's in charge?
I don't think they know. But I was looking a little bit more deeply into this, and I was looking at who sent it, because what struck me puzzling about this was initially, because we're resellers, you assume that they're talking to you about your selling account, but I actually think they're talking to you about your customer account, which
okay.
That's why this is what I believe. I don't actually think they're talking to us that you're a seller and you've had information leaked because you're selling information. I think they're actually talking to you as you are a customer that purchases on Amazon. Because the reason why, because initially I was thinking sincerely the customer service department. I was like, why would the customer service department be emailing sellers this? Because my initial thought was, when you see a subject line of important information regarding your Amazon.co.uk account, you think my seller account, what's going on with my seller account? Immediately, your naturally reaction is to do that. But when you look at who is actually sent the order, the email, the email address is order-update@amazon.co.uk. And this email address, this is the same as, do you know, like when you just, do you know when you buy something? When you just buy something, it's from the same email address. So I think this is actually, I think this is to customers, which in many ways, I think I don't know whether that's worse, because there's millions more customers.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's crazy. Yeah, you're probably right, because it would have probably said from Amazon seller support or something like that. So yes, I think you're probably right there. Jonathan says, very good detective work, Columbo. Just one more question, man.
Just one more question. But but because in my mind, I thought to myself, the way it read, this is not a result of anything that you have done. I was like, I haven't done anything. Do you know what I mean? And as a seller, straight away, you are thinking that you've done something wrong, because Amazon are always going to tell you that you've done something wrong, and it's nothing to do with them. But if you think about it, they're not like that with customers. They're very protective of their customers. Yeah, so I think they're sort of saying, look, customer, don't worry. It's nothing that you have done. You don't need to change anything. We've got this under control. So I think it's definitely something. I've not heard nothing much more about this topic. I would have thought it would have been a huge sort of data breach, I'd imagine, depending on how many customers there is. But interesting.
It is, and you think if it was a massive data breach throughout the whole of Amazon UK, you think it would have made the national news. That they just send out a cursory email saying, "Oh, by the way, we've lost track of some of your data, but don't worry, it's fine now." You think that would have gone a bit further along the news line, really, as being something that's pretty bad. But again, whether it came as us as sellers or as us as customers, just to put out a 3-line email like that and to not give some background and a bit more information and to maybe apologize and be a little bit more sincere would have been nice at the very least. But whenever you get these emails, they always seem to be so cursory and sent by by just someone in the call center, whether someone's walked past and said, "Oh, can you tell the whole of the UK customers that we accidentally breached their data?"
And just to confirm, I've just Googled Amazon data breach, and it basically, you've got like Forbes that reported it, you've got The Guardian, so there was definitely some people that started to talk about this. Forbes said, worst Amazon Black Friday deal confirmed as customer data is leaked. Interesting.
Yeah, it's another could do better from Amazon, I'm afraid. It's going to get a C- from me, that one. I'm afraid it's not great. I mean, it's not great that they lost the data in the first place, and how they handled it seemed pretty dismissive as well. So definitely could do better on that one. But there we go. That's life, I suppose. We'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, just like anything, things hopefully get better. But yeah. So shall we go on to the next question?
Yes, please. Another question, please.
Yeah, there was a quick question that you can quickly answer here, Andy. Came into the group as well from Jamie, basically saying, what's the difference between using a program like SourceMongle and sourcing sheets and lists?
That would be a very quick one and easy one to answer if I had any idea who SourceMongle was. I've never heard of them.
You've never heard of SourceMongle?
Never heard of SourceMongle. Are they a Mongolian site specifically, or can we all use them?
I believe it's another software. It's the third software. I think it's you got Tactical Arbitrage, FBA Wizard, and you've also got SourceMongle. I think that is another software that you can use.
That one's totally passed me by, Kev, to be honest with you, I must admit. Have you got any feedback about them? Certainly never used them.
I don't have any feedback on SourceMongle. I've never used them. Although looking at it, I do believe they're a little bit cheaper. Whether that is because they maybe haven't been around as long. Looking at the website, it looks like I'm just looking at it here. Looks like there's got a free trial. It looks pretty much the same as the likes of Tactical Arbitrage and FBA Wizard from what I'm looking at. Okay. But to answer the question, what's the difference between a program like SourceMongle and I guess what you're saying is what's the difference between a software like Tactical Arbitrage, FBA Wizard, and a sourcing list? So to quickly answer that is basically a sourcing sheet is a list of products that is sent to you on a daily basis. That is, with a software, you've got to press the scans, you've got to initiate the scans, you've got to put all your filters in, you've got to put all the data into the software for the software to know what it's actually looking at as it's going through an entire website. With a sourcing list, you don't actually have you haven't got that ability. You get a list of products sent to you, and that's your lot, really.
Yeah, that's a pretty good definition, really. The software outputs eventually the deals, and the sourcing list gives you the deals. So one of them is something that you use to find the deals, and the other one gives you the pre-found deals. So someone else is doing it on on your behalf effectively, and doing that manual process that takes the time and the effort. So yeah, a lot of people do both. A lot of people have sourcing sheets and try and do the scans themselves, but it depends where you are, I guess, in your process. If you've got the money to be able to get some sourcing sheets and do it yourself, then you've got more deals. Then hopefully you've got more things to buy and more things to be able to make money from. So yeah, I guess it's personal preference, isn't it, Kev? Really?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always, the way I see this is I've spoken about what I call the master levels of sourcing, and I think using a sourcing list is one of the best ways to get started, in my opinion, because I wish I knew of sourcing lists back in 2015 when I first started, because if I knew I could just pay for a sourcing list once per month. So let's say, for example, I mean, Source Mangal is, I think it was £67 per month or something, and that's
Right.
a special offer right now because of Cyber Monday,
Okay.
I believe. But let's say it's £97, which is maybe the same as let's say Tactical Arbitrage or FBA Wizard.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, there's a steeper learning curve with the likes of FBA Wizard and Tactical Arbitrage, just for the simple fact that you've got to learn how to put your filters in. You've got to learn how to run the scans and then export those scans and put them into your spreadsheet and review everything. In my opinion, it's a little bit more advanced. For anybody that's just starting, if I was just starting all over again, I would jump straight into a sourcing list, in my personal opinion, because you don't have to do anything. You just get some products sent to you, and you're just looking at them and going, am I going to get this or not?
Yeah.
Don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you should definitely find the time to learn it, but if you're getting started, it certainly would make life a lot easier that you can examine the deals, and if you've got the deals, then you can get making money straight away. But yeah, you definitely, if you're getting started, you definitely need to know why those deals are better than the other deals, because ultimately you have to be able to have the understanding to double check that yourself and make sure it's a viable product to buy. And so you still need to understand the data. But in terms of learning something like FBA Wizard, it will take a little while to do that, and I imagine Tactical Arbitrage. So yeah, that would make sense. If someone's already done that and is sending them to you, then it certainly would make life easier for you when you're getting started, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons. There is pros and cons to both. I mean, Simon just mentioned in the chat there, if you're in a sourcing sheet, that's going to be a shared sheet with other people. Whereas if you're running your own Tactical Arbitrage scan or your own FBA Wizard scan, that data that you export is your private data. Mm-hmm. That's not shared with anybody. Mm-hmm. Nobody is getting access to that exported file because that's yours. So, if we was to weigh up the pros and cons, it's completely up to personal preference, really. It's completely up to you what you want to do. Ultimately, long term, you want to have as many of these different sourcing methods to your disposal as possible, a part of your arsenal. So if something goes, if you're heavily reliant on, let's say, a sourcing sheet, your entire business is focused on a sourcing sheet, then my recommendation would be to diversify your sourcing methods, just in case something happened to your sourcing sheet. If for whatever reason, because you don't have control over it, something happened to it that it stopped, the quality dropped, whatever the case is, you need to diversify how you're finding your products. The same as, FBA Wizard. If something happened with the software, or if for whatever reason it didn't work, or whatever the case is, you don't want to rely on one leg of sourcing. So, we talk about multiple streams of income. It's also multiple streams of sourcing as well. Yeah. You're gonna try to have as many things as possible to diversify as much as possible. And it's definitely the thing to do when you're starting to look into a business long-term reselling.
Absolutely, yep. Not relying on one specific area is always good practice in any area of what you're doing. So yeah, definitely agree with that, Kev.
I think was there a question? Was there some questions from you guys here? I'm just having a quick look at the chat here.
Yes, I think Jonathan had a question about EFN fees down there. New question: when selling into Europe, do the EFN fees replace the FBA fees, or do we have to pay the FBA fees and the EFN fees? Yeah, unfortunately, EFN fees are an additional price on top of the fees. So yes, it's more expensive to sell in Europe. So you definitely need to have a good idea of how much those fees are, so you can price accordingly. How do you generally do that, Kevin, in your procedures and ways of automating things as much as possible? How do you allow for EFN fees? Is it a dynamic thing with your business? Do you have a set percentage you go on top, or how do you deal with it?
Yeah, it's more of a set, but the one thing that I would definitely recommend for anybody here is always check the fees that you're paying. When you're selling in Europe, make sure that you don't just check it once and then go, okay, I want to add £7 on every one of my items that I'm selling, and then just set and forget. Always double check this, because what I found was there was a time, and I can't remember why, I can't remember what happened, but I started looking at some fees in Europe, and I can't remember which country it was, but it was Europe, and I started to see some fees of like ridiculous amounts of fees. I'm talking like you're assuming that you might be paying an additional £5 here or there, but I was seeing a fee of like £25 and £30. I'm thinking, whoa, what is going on here? Like, because one, you're just losing. I was losing some money on these products. So what I did immediately then was we check them on an interval based as well. We'll check some of the orders that we're making in EU, check the fees that we're paying, and then we don't just say, okay, that's the fee. 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, usually once a month, we're checking again just to make sure what's going on, just so we're updated. We're doing a deeper sample in a monthly basis, but because I've got my my virtual manager, I like him to spot check things. It's always good to spot check things in your business anyway. It's always good to spot check anything in your business as a business owner. Whatever system that you create, anything that you do create, it's always good to spot check what you're doing or what your team's doing. So he does that on a weekly basis as well.
Well, that sounds like wise advice, Kev. So check your EFN and your fees in general on a monthly basis to ensure they haven't changed so much that that you could be losing money or not getting the profit percentage that you wanted in the first place. So that sounds to me like a golden nugget, Kev. So you can have one of these. Yeah, it's great advice.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of the things where, we talk about systems, or I talk about systems a lot, and we talk about automating things and outsourcing things. But the reality is, it's also important to check things. It's also important to spot check things. And the more I guess I've built my business, the more I've come to realize why some of the practices, because I was an electrical engineer prior to owning my own business, I used to think like, why do the business that I work for do like competence assessments every 6 months? Why do they do these sort of things? But now it makes sense, because we always need to make sure that people are doing what they should be doing. So even though you may create a procedure on how to do something or how to review a product, let's say you create a procedure on what's a winning product and what's a losing product, and now a virtual assistant is using that procedure to determine what you're purchasing in your business. Well, 3 months later, you want to make sure that they're still working to that procedure, because human nature they may start to cut corners a little bit. They may start adding things to your procedure. This is just what happens. This is just a part and parcel of human nature and having a business. So I started introducing that into the business as well. So what we'll do is we'll sample, okay, you've said we're not buying these products because they're losers, and you've said that this is wrong, or this doesn't comply to our criteria, and now we're going to spot check that to make sure that you're actually right in what you're saying. Because you don't want to be in a scenario where, you know, you've got somebody working for you and they're going, that's a loser, that's a loser, that's a loser, whereas it could actually be a winner, and they're just rejecting products when they're a winner. And on the flip side, they're saying that's a winner, that's a winner, that's a winner, when maybe that's a loser, that's a loser, that's a loser. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, great idea.
You know, so that's so important, because in our line of work, you know, Andy, I don't know how much you sort of spend every single month, or some of your orders from wholesalers. You know, you don't want to spend £20,000 on bad products. You know, so it's so important to make sure long term that you've got the quality up there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you are, the more you're spending on orders, the more imperative it is to make sure that if you have got other people doing that for you, that they are doing it right. So yeah, absolutely. Spot check's a great idea. And as you say, you know, once you've got through that educational procedure, you know, maybe something's not quite right or having a bad day or something, but to have those checks and balances to make sure that the people working on your behalf are doing what they're supposed to be doing, very important. So yeah, I'd agree with that. It's a great way to keep on top of things and give you the peace of mind, Kev, as well. I imagine that the ship's sailing smoothly if you're getting these reports back saying people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, the fees are what they're supposed to be, and everyone's correct and in the green. Then that gives you the peace of mind that everything's running smoothly.
Absolutely, and that's it's about the maturity of your team as well. I think I mentioned that right at the beginning of the Reseller Show. You know, it's an investment in your team. It's not about it's not about like you're doing this wrong. You've made a real mess up. Now you're gone. You know, that's not what this is about. It's about you've made a mess up. Do you understand where you've made the mess up? You know, there's no, in my opinion, it's going to take a lot for it to be an absolute catastrophe. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some scenarios where that we could come up with that is a catastrophe. Let's say you did purchase £40,000 worth of products and then it's all gone to shit. You know, I'm sure that there is catastrophe faults that people can do, but in reality, you know, this is what I always say. If let's say you make a purchase of I'll give you a prime example. I've spoken to a number of sellers about outsourcing purchasing. Okay, so it's one of the I guess the most difficult things to outsource, because now it's like, hang on a minute, somebody else is purchasing on my behalf, and I always get the question, well, how did you do that? Like, did you not feel like they would commit fraud? Or did you not feel like, what if they buy the wrong stuff? And all these legitimate questions that anybody would have. And I had the same thing. I was like, I'm not too sure about this. I'm not too sure about whether I want to give a virtual assistant that's on the other side of the world access to my credit card that can now purchase products, or access to the buying, what they're buying and what they're not buying. But start to look and ask yourself the question of, well, what if they purchased £300 at Disney and half of it's wrong? You've got things in place. You've got things in place to identify that. So what you could do, so let's say you outsource purchasing for the first time, and you said to them, do you know what, today you're going to purchase everything that you would purchase. And this comes after months of training. This comes after weeks of training. So now you're putting them to the test. It's like an assessment. Now you're going to purchase for all day. And at the end of the day, you know what they've purchased. So what you can do, you can go through the entire list and go through the entire list of going, you purchased this and it was right. You purchased that and it was wrong. You purchased that and it was wrong. You're going to have maybe potentially orders and products that were wrong, but guess what? You can just take them back to store and return them. But what you've done is you've got a valuable lesson, and the virtual assistant or whoever's in your team has got a valuable lesson that they will remember, because they've maybe spent £400 that's wrong. So they're going to feel that. They're going to go, crap, I did something wrong. And that's where the lessons are learned. So that's definitely one of my biggest things that I could say for anybody that's contemplating outsourcing purchasing and not aware or not sure or feeling worried about actually taking that leap.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. You've got to give them the opportunity in the first place to make it right. And as you say, if there is a problem, then that is all part of the learning process. So that's fair enough. Yeah, you can't be too scared for there to be mistakes, because mistakes are all part of the learning process. But yes, if you're sort of chopping in and out and just double checking your individual assistants to make sure they're still on the right lines, that that's wise. Ultimately, you're responsible for your business, and you need to make sure everyone's on track. But yeah, that sounds good.
I've lost my train of thought now then. Was there any more questions on the chat here?
That was, last one was John asking EFM fees. I think that's the only one we've had. What we got at the top here?
Jonathan here. Here we go. Second question. Is there a strategy when you have a large number of items for a single ASIN? I feel it encourages others to undercut me.
Strategy for a large number of items on a single ASIN. So you've bought a large number of the same item. Encourages why? I don't really understand the question, John, to be honest with you. Encourages other sellers to undercut you when you have more of the same item. Not sure of that. Can we get a bit more clarity on that one, John? Unless you've got anything, Kev.
I'm wondering, do you mean, okay, so somebody is you've got let's say 50 units, and somebody comes in and they've only got 4 units. Are you saying that they might be encouraged to undercut you because they see that you've got more units than them, and they maybe I guess they could be, a reseller could be inexperienced to know that they need to beat you to make some sales. They don't understand that you can share the buy box. Is that maybe what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, that might be what you think is. I guess if someone has 4 items, then maybe other people might be inclined to say, "I'll wait for them to sell their 4 items, then I'll go just above them or something." Whereas if someone has loads, they think, "Well, they're not going to sell anytime soon. I'll undercut them." Maybe that's the thoughts behind it. But yeah, I'm not sure it necessarily does encourage people to undercut you. Not sure I've had that necessarily, but I mean, you could always send smaller amounts in if it's efficient to do so, depending on how much you've got. If you sent them in at 10 at a time, everyone would only see that you've got 10, and they might wait and leave you there to sell out, and then you send another 10 in. But as soon as you send another 10 in, they'd realize that and undercut you anyway. So not sure. What's he saying?
I think people want a speedy sale, quick return. So I think this is more of a matter of getting the awareness out to other resellers that may be inexperienced to know that people can share the buy box. I think that's the best strategy, if that's what, is there a strategy when you have a large. Unfortunately, we can't control other people in terms of what they do with their price. All we can do as this community is get out there in the community, and the more of us, and shows like this help, obviously, but the more, however many Facebook groups that you're in, put that out on the Facebook group and say, are we all under the same impression here that we can all share the buy box? Does anybody know, or does anybody not know that happens? Because you might have a brand new seller that just doesn't know. They just don't. They're not aware. They see they want to sell something and they see, who's this Jonathan person? He's got 70 units of this. I'm now going to have to wait until he's sold 70 units, which could take 2, 3, 4 weeks. They might even think it might take months. So they're now thinking, I'm going to undercut you, Jonathan, because I want to get rid of my 4, and I'm not waiting for you to sell your 70.
Yeah.
I think that just comes down to awareness. I really do. I think it's our responsibility as this community to keep sharing, match people. There's no need to fight each other.
Yeah, I think it's more often than not when I see some very strange undercutting behavior, it's almost always someone with very, very low feedback on their account, and they might be a new seller, and they quite often have like 92% already and only sort of 8 feedback or something. It's usually an account where you think, oh dear, yeah, that's just someone who's either new and uneducated, or it's never a good scenario when that happens, unfortunately. But as you say, education is the key, knowledge is power, as they say, Kev. So getting the word out is the best way to do it, that we can all win by matching, and we both get the same money, and it deters the whole pointless game and dropping of the profit margins. But to answer your question, John, I don't really think it necessarily encourages that, so I wouldn't worry too much about sending large amounts in. If that's what you've decided to purchase, then send it all in. It saves messing about, unless you want to save a small amount of storage fees, in which case send it in a couple of batches. But no, I wouldn't worry too much. I think there are other things to worry about than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't let it discourage you from sending in more products.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we turning to next? Is there any more?
I think that pretty much wrapped it up. Did I see Jonathan was wanting clarification about the EFM fees? There's quite a few posts there, but you don't. If you're paying an EFM fee, you're not paying an Amazon UK fee on as well. If you sell something in Europe, then the fee will be within that country. You're not going to pay an FBA UK fee and then a fee in Europe. It will be specifically in the country that you're paying the fee. It is higher than what you pay it in the UK, but it's one fee. If that answers the question, John.
Yeah. Well. Wow, we've been going for like 55 minutes already, Andy. Can you believe it? It's amazing how these conversations just get going. It's awesome.
Always. Yeah, it always goes quickly. You look up and we're at that time again. But it's been another good one. I've enjoyed it. We've got a golden nugget from you, which is always beneficial. That idea of regularly doing spot checks on your business to either check the fees or even check your virtual assistants if you have them. But generally, that is a good rule of thumb to go by. If you haven't introduced it already, don't just set things up and forget them, because things can move. Fees can certainly move. Ultimately, if you have to be dealing with currencies, if currencies move, that means the goalposts are changing. So always good to check in on that and make sure that your desired profit margins are still the same, because you may find your margins slowly eroding and then they're not there at all. So great advice there, Kev. I think that's
especially with all these things going on with Brexit as well. So you don't know. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen with currency and things. So
exactly,
keep checking stuff. Keep making sure that you know what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, if that's it, and if that's all the questions we've had, then are you ready to wrap it up for this evening, Kev?
Yeah, ready to wrap up. I think that was another great episode there, Andy. I really loving these episodes. I really do. And for anybody that's watching this or listening to this back later on, you can join us live every single Monday by just going to resellershow.com/live, and then you can join us on a live call like this. Get your questions in. Join us for an hour or so and talk all things reselling.
Absolutely. And until next week, thank you very much for watching and listening and whatever you're doing. And thank you for your positive reviews. If you're taking a moment to give us some love on the reviews for the podcast as well, we appreciate you for doing that. And look out for the bonus episode of the live reseller show that will be coming up in the next few days as well. And if we don't see you, we'll see you here next Monday, same time, same back channel.
Take care, guys. Have a fantastic evening, and I'll speak to you guys next week.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Welcome to the Reseller Show with your hosts, Andy Lawrence and Kevin Blackburn.